Good morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the official Untappd podcast.
Your weekly look into what's happening in the Untappd community and the world of beer.
This episode is brought to you by the Untappd store at store.untappd.com. And of course, it's brought to you by Untappd and Harrison and I. But more importantly, when you visit store.untappd.com, use the coupon code podcast and grab yourself 20% off of any of the merchandise in the entire Untappd store. Now, before we begin, Harrison and I want to send a big shout out to the Instagram user K Marks for winning 2 VIP tickets to the Untappd Beer Festival next week. VIP tickets are already sold out for session 2. So if you're on the fence about these, the time to buy is now. Unless you wanted to buy VIP tickets for session 2. In that case, the time to buy was last week. But I'm confident you'll still be able to grab some for session 1. Harrison and I won't be at this event, but you can bet we're going to be watching along on the check-ins and probably getting a little jealous and talking about them in an upcoming episode. Make sure you pay attention to Untappd on social media so you can enter to win contests like this in the future. Also, so you can learn about new episodes of Drinking Socially like this one. Speaking of which, what's in store for today, Harrison?
So you've heard us talk about it a lot. Not just us. I mean, pretty much everyone in the craft beer world is in agreement. Right now, we are living in the golden age of beer. I mean, it's almost overwhelming. In fact, it is overwhelming. What beer should I drink next? How can I even start to think about making that decision with so many amazing choices all the time in front of us, online, on Untappd, at our bottle shop, at our brewery, wherever you can learn about things. It seems like you're able to learn about more beer there as well. And so for me, when I'm trying to make that choice on what the heck am I just going to drink tonight, first I always look at what Jon's been doing on Untappd, and I try and find that if I haven't had it already. But if he's on a fruited sour kick, for example, then I turn to my local verified venues to see what's new in town. And you'd think that would make it much easier, but it really doesn't. When I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, where Untappd's headquarters is located, about 5 years ago, there were only 2 breweries here. Now there are more than 20. So picking what 4 or 6-pack to grab is still a tough choice. When you have so many options and new beers getting canned and bottled every single day. Wilmington's not alone. I mean, in many ways, the story of Wilmington is the story of every town or city in the United States and now kind of the world. At some point over the past 20 years, there's kind of a beer tipping point, a tapping point, if you will, where the demand for local beer outpaces supply and more breweries open up. Oh, that's, of course, there's much more nuanced things happening than that, but that's essentially the gist. So today, in partnership with the Brewers Association, we're going to celebrate that fact by drinking some local beers and unlocking the new Local Beer is Better badge. And it gets better. I'm actually going to sit down with Ann Obenchain from the Brewers Association. She's their marketing director, to learn more about how the Local Beer is Better idea came to be and how, in many ways, kind of return to our historical roots, where once again, the breweries in town are the center of that community. Are you thirsty yet, Jon? Because I sure am.
I am. I hope it's a little, well, it's going to be easy for us to pick because we already have our beers set aside for this episode. But speaking of the badge that Harrison's talking about, the badge you want to feature on this episode, Local Beer is Better. It's the name of the badge, and I'm pretty sure it's a profound truth. And I can't wait to hear Harrison and Ann talk about building this badge with Untappd. The description that you'll get, I think this is one of the better ones that we have on Untappd. When you unlock this badge, each time your neighborhood brewery pours a pint, it makes an impact on your hometown. Fact, local beer is better like that. Don't have a good beer, have a better one. Find a local brewery near you, grab a pint that makes an impact where you live because local beer is better. And I love that messaging. That's one of the things I think a lot of us love about craft beer is that you can support your local community while drinking a beer from across the world. The criteria for this badge, in order to earn it, you need to check into 1 beer from a United States brewery that's listed as micro, nano, regional, or brew pub on Untappd between September 13th and December 31st.
Yep.
So if you can't drink one local United States beer before the end of the year, try harder. No, I don't want to be mean, but this should be relatively easy for most everyone to get. Some of our international listeners might have a little bit of trouble, but I think with some of the regional breweries involved on Untappd, you should hopefully be able to find one before the end of the year. Anything I'm forgetting, Harrison?
Yeah, we're going to be drinking a lot of them probably. And, while we're getting these beers ready today, it's a good time to remind you that Oktoberfest is here. Well, virtually, at least this year. And Untappd celebrating in a pretty big way, not with one, but 2 badges. You got to jump into our blog and follow us online to learn more. But basically, we're going to be drinking, or, you guys can, but we certainly will too. Next week, you drink any beer from the original 6 Munich breweries. We'll earn you one of these badges. That one's available until October 3rd. But also, just taking a picture of yourself, maybe Stein holding your favorite local beer, or any beer for that matter, will earn you another. But that is for this coming weekend only. So September 24th through the 26th. So badges are happening, beers are happening. It's a great time to be alive.
Definitely check out Untappd's blog to learn more about those. But we've already talked a lot about beer and badges, and we've got some pretty awesome ones local to Harrison and I to unlock the local beer is better badge. Harrison, what are you bringing to the show tonight?
Yes, indeed. So I'm starting with a watering hole that if you follow John and I on Untappd, you probably saw us check into a lot before the crazy 2 years we've all been through, but maybe a little bit more recently, and certainly a lot at home. Flying Machine's Vimana. So this is Flying Machine Brewing Company. So they're local to Wilmington. They're like 10 minutes from my house, which is good because I recently moved and it was still 10 minutes to the new house. That was something I did look up before I signed the paperwork just to make sure I wasn't getting much further away from Flying Machine. But this is their Kolsch. So it comes in at 5.1%, 14 IBUs. Carries a 3.8 rating on Untappd, which is great for any beer. And from the brewery themselves, so Flying Machine does like the really nice old school approach, a lot of their descriptions where they just hit you with what you're looking for, especially if you're an old beer advocate fan and you're probably used to these categories: the appearance, golden straw and opaque, aroma, apple blossom, flavor, pear, cracker, floral. Excited to check that out. And the mouthfeel is light to medium with a crisp finish. And the overall impression is a light and crisp ale with cracker-like overtones, hint of pear, and a subtle apple blossom nose. So sounds very Kolschy, which is good. But I'm going to open that up. John, tell me what you have brought to the cast tonight.
Yeah, I'm jealous of anytime I hear Kolsch, I think of apple, and Flying Machine doesn't seem to shy away from it in their description. I'm also bringing a beer from Flying Machine, local to me in Wilmington, North Carolina. As Harrison said, we've kind of become a fan of them as a local brewery, as well as the other 20. You need to take a vacation in your hometown to visit them all. But
yeah, right.
On the very opposite end of the spectrum from Flying Machine, I'm bringing a beer called Please Send Help.
Love it.
And while I don't fully understand the meaning of the name behind this, I feel like when I was cruising through Untappd and looking at all the check-ins, this seems like a beer that gets shared often. It's a double pastry imperial stout. It's 11.2%, which might have something to do with the sharing. It comes in a tall boy can. And its rating on Untappd, after about 650 check-ins, it didn't get a lot of distribution. It was a small beer that they made, but 4.19.
Ooh.
Which is, in my opinion, is almost perfection.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that with a lot of opinions. And contrary to Harrison's description, on Vimana, it's a beer that Flying Machine makes, I think, year round. It's one of the first beers I remember having from them. Yeah. On this smaller distribution beer, Please Send Help, the description is banana, coconut, chocolate. Boom. Really, what else do you need? I mean, that was it. I think Harrison and I both ran to Flying Machine when they did the release for this, and it was sold out in a couple of hours, which is still pretty exciting. That, you know, small local brewery is able to build that kind of buzz around a beer. So I'm excited to try it. I stole something from Kyle Roderick when he was on the podcast, Temperature Gun.
Here we go.
And as I check the reading on this stout right now, we're getting, well, it seems like I don't know how to use a temperature gun. It says it's 78 degrees. No, never mind. That's my finger. We're at about 63 degrees. I pulled this out of the fridge about an hour ago. Yeah.
John's temperature is more concerning, but that's good. Good, nice, healthy. Right, not too cold. That's a good. I mean, with the double pastry style, that can be a delicate dance of not. You don't want it ice cold, but you don't want it too warm where you feel like you're drinking soup. So we'll keep track on the temperature gun tonight, see how that's changing the taste. But while you're doing that, I just smelled this beer. Look at that, like the polar opposite, same brewery, which. You know, before we dive in, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we really like these guys. And I'm sure you all have, like, you know, probably many, if you're lucky, breweries in town that don't just brew one kind of beer. I'm not going to say what kind, but don't just brew one kind of beer, but brew all kinds of beers. And that is really how Flying Machine introduced themselves to the Wilmington beer community was, you know, not just a bunch of hazy IPAs. There, I said it. You know, they had plenty of those, but they opened up. They had an ESB. They had a couple oatmeal stouts. They had some things on cask. They used to do a lot of really cool hand pump stuff where they'd infuse things with teas and fruits and other hops. So, you know, they really said, let's explore and celebrate all beer. And that really got our attention right away. And it's made us coming back. And these are perfect beers to drink from them. One that's around all the time and is super light, and one that's really hard to get and is huge and delicious. So I'm going to start with mine. Big old fluffy head, which you like. Good looking beer. You can see through it. Ooh, there's the bubbles cleared up a little bit more. Not as clear as some Kolsch's, but definitely not hazy. It's got a nice little chill haze to it. With that big fluffy head, and it does. It smells like apples and crackers, which is great.
Apples and crackers probably doesn't sound that appetizing to most people, but once you hit that age where you're like, all right, I'm done playing basketball without taking ibuprofen, that's when apples and crackers.
It all comes back around. I feel like that's right. Every 2-year-old's lunch is apples and crackers, and then it becomes a goofy thing when you're kind of finding yourself, well, then you're old again, and it's like, I can only eat apples and crackers because of my blood sugar or my heart or I need the fiber or whatever.
I need to drink 500 calories of stout also. But
right. That's why I'm only limited to apples and crackers, which that's not balanced. But anyway, this beer is delicious. It is that. I mean, they do nail it. Like, they're not messing around with the descriptions. That was kind of the point I was trying to make, is the poetry is in the glass. They're just telling you, hey, this is what you're tasting. And that's really great for like any beer fan, but especially someone who's kind of discovering beer maybe, and they're like, what is that? Why do I like this? If you're in a Flying Machine beer, more often than not, you can jump into their Untappd description and figure out like, oh, that's pear I'm getting. Ooh. And now you can kind of move, and then you move along your beer journey. You can go, if something else, another beer has pear in the description, you can go, had that before in a beer. I like that. And again, there's no pear in here. It's just the flavor this thing's putting off, and that definitely shows up. But this is light, crisp. You could drink it all day. It is one of their now, like, core beer is almost an antique phrase, but it is a beer they have all the time unless they have a salad of it. But then they'll brew another batch, or probably one is already on the way. So it's one they try to have all the time. Just demand maybe makes that difficult, which is a good problem to have. But this is the beer you want at the end of a long day, mowing the lawn, whatever. Kolsch's are so great. We've gone on about them on multiple podcast episodes, how it is this lovely thing that's not a lager. It's not a pale ale. It lives in this beautiful in-between world. It's hard to describe, but when you drink it, if you get it, you're like, oh, this is the only thing I want to drink now forever. And you go on a 3-month-long Kolsch kick, and you should do that. Everyone should do that. And this is going to make that happen again for me. I can tell, even though those Oktoberfests are right here going, Harrison, next week, it's all about Oktoberfest. Until then, I guess I'll just be enjoying some Vamana. But
we were talking about the cold IPA style in the Facebook group in the last couple of days, which is kind of I guess we'd call it a new craze, but it's if it happens, hopefully it doesn't crash like the Brute IPA did, but it seems to have a similar lineage to a Kolsch where there's like lager and ale things both happening in that beer together. That'd be exciting if we could get one on the show, but we'll have to figure out what badge it'll apply to.
And after a good call.
I want to
what's going on?
Steal from Harrison and Flying Machine and Beer Advocate and use. So Harrison mentioned the descriptor that Flying Machine puts in their beer, and I'll try and walk through this one in a real-time example because, as you mentioned, like for someone new to beer, or even if you're old to beer, the categories, right? Appearance. If we look at this, totally void of light. That's my check for appearance.
That's right.
There might be almost no head retention on it. It's been in the can for about a year or two, but
the coconut's tough to keep the oils and the coconut with the head retention. That can get difficult. Science
nerd. So appearance, dark and dark, really, really dark. If we move on to the next category, aroma. Initially, I want to say hot, but if I come back for a kind of a slow smell, like hot, when I say that, I mean like it kind of smells boozy to me.
Yes.
But then if I come back and try it again, I can definitely smell and recognize banana and almost like fig or like a dark sweet
smell. Nice.
Flavor. I mean, this beer is incredible. That's not a flavor descriptor. Banana, fudge. Maybe I still want to say like some kind of like dark fruit, like fig, or there's some fruitness in there. The coconut, I'm looking for it, but I can't find it in there. It's banana forward, and that's what's sticking with me. And then fudge in the back.
Nice.
So we've got appearance, aroma, flavor, mouthfeel. Thick and lingering, but kind of thick than I would have expected. It doesn't feel like I'm taking a mouthful of fresh brownie.
Right. Interesting. It sounds like an amazing meal in a glass, almost like a great last meal, but that would be tough to ask for because it's called Please Send Help. So you'd be talking to the jailer. I just want please send help. It's already been decided.
It's too late, sir.
This is just what's happening. No, please send help is what I want. Yeah, I know. I'm sure you do. We hear it all.
You and everyone else.
Just ask for a steak like everybody else does, and we'll see if we can find you a cheeseburger. No, you don't understand. It's the beer.
So if you're not begging for your last meal with a poor decision or please send help, hopefully next time you drink a beer you're unfamiliar with, remember Harrison Flying Machine Beer Advocate's guideline: appearance, aroma, flavor, and mouthfeel. And maybe you'll pull something out of a beer that you wouldn't have got otherwise, and you'll end up like me, just saying, "Wow, there's a lot going on with this one."
Exactly, and that's fine too, because sometimes you just want to have a beer and watch a movie, football, stare into nothing. But there is a framework there that you can use to maybe get a little zen in that moment and go, well, let's just not think about anything and just kind of take in what is in this glass and what is happening and what I'm smelling and seeing and tasting and all that stuff. And it, obviously, I know you guys all know this that are listening, but it can be fun to get lost in a beer and really that be all you're doing. And it's hard. It's hard to turn the brain off and go live in the moment. But this is almost a trick if you're like thinking about, well, what's the appearance? You have a structure there. You can turn your brain almost off because you know what to do: appearance, aroma, flavor, mouthfeel, and then kind of an overall thing. And you start thinking about that, and then 25 minutes has gone by, and you're still enjoying the same beer, and you haven't thought of anything else. And I imagine that does something maybe good for your heart rate. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I think zen, the peace and zen of internal beer monologues with Harrison.
That's right. That'd be a tough. Yeah, we could probably make that a thing where you just put the camera on me and I say nothing and it's all a voiceover. Maybe you're my inner voice. That's the truth.
Man, there'd be some fun to have there.
There's a lot. It's very busy. A lot of lines in my head leading nowhere. It's like a Six Flags built by a bunch of pirates with one glass eye. That's what they say. That makes sense to people, doesn't it?
So even though Harrison's drinking a 5.1% Kolsch, I think he's having a much better go of it, a much quicker absorption of it.
Say.
Maybe it's the Zen that you're experiencing.
Just the Zen.
This 11.2 is going to carry me right through your interview with Ann, and I'm excited. I'm sorry that I can't be part of it, but I'm really excited to come back and listen to it in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. So I got to sat down with Ann Obenchain from the BA. She is our marketing director of the Brewers Association. And we talked more about this badge, how it came to be, the larger campaign the Brewers Association is running, but really just kind of get down to the core of it. Like, why local beer is better? Why? So take a listen to the talk I had with Ann, and we'll check back with you in a bit. Ann, thank you so much for being here today. This is great.
Hey, Harrison. Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Yes, great to see you again. We had a blast the other week talking on the virtual happy hour. So I was very jealous because you had a Great American Beer Festival award-winning beer in your glass, and I think you have another one now, don't you?
I do. You should be really jealous because I have another gold-winning beer. This one is from Bootstrap Brewing. Let me get this in front of Bootstrap Brewing in Longmont, Colorado. I'm based in Colorado, so lots of Colorado beers.
Yep.
And this is called Styx Pale Ale, and it won the gold medal for the American Style Pale Ale, which is one of the largest entered categories at the festival. So
amazing.
Big congratulations to them.
I know it's obviously every beer is amazing. Every category is amazing. But if you're able to win in like American Pale Ale or IPA, like that's like the best pick. That's tough, man. There's so many breweries.
Lots of great talent in those. And this year was our largest competition to date. So even more special.
I know, that's right. And as of recording this, so Bootstrap is a verified venue on Untappd. And sure enough, Styx Pale Ale on tap right now. So if you're near Longmont, you can jump on down there and grab it, and everyone can make me jealous. So tag me in your check-ins if you're also able to drink this beer, and I can just be sad in North Carolina.
Check in after this.
That's right. Yes, check in after this, but everyone at home as well. That's amazing. And again, Ann and I sat down for Untappd Virtual Happy Hour and dove into a lot of fun stuff, and she made me jealous of all the amazing breweries that are in Denver. So won't talk too much. I'll try not to talk about that too much today, although Ann should totally brag as much as she wants. But I think something we can all brag about is how great our local breweries are. And that's something you guys are really drawing attention to right now with this local beer is better campaign. There's a badge on Untappd, so you guys should hopefully have all earned it by now, but if not, check in to one of your favorite local breweries. And as long as it's independently owned, you got this. But Ann, tell me a little bit about this badge and really the campaign overall, like what you guys are doing and the purpose of it. 'Cause I think it's great.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, Local Beer is Better kind of came out of the pandemic as we were trying to help brewers get back on their feet and get customers back into breweries, or at least getting to go and curbside and delivery, whatever they could do. And it comes out of the Independent Craft Brewer Seal, which is an upside down beer bottle, which helps you identify small and independent craft breweries. But really the message about Local Beer is Better is to remind you, the beer lovers, that there's so much more in this glass of beer. And every time your neighborhood brewery pours a pint, it makes an impact on your hometown.
Oh yeah.
Local beer is better like that. It helps your economy. It's good for your economy. It's good for your taste buds. It helps create jobs. And those tables at tap rooms and brew pubs are where community building really happens. So that's really the essence of Local Beer is Better.
Right. I know and it's really like, not to get ridiculous and sound like a Hallmark card or a weird commercial, but it's very much tied to the history of America. Your history teacher in middle school may have told you that, the Declaration of Independence was written in Congress Hall. Sure, the final one was, but that was created in like bar napkins in the basement of a tavern in Philadelphia somewhere, drinking, nothing but local beer because it was made in that same basement. So
that's right.
I mean, it's very much the brewery beer. It's always been, part of our heritage in this country and the world, really. I mean, beer is such a great thing to gather around, but I think it's real. I love this whole campaign, and probably the thing I love the most about it is it does make you pause as a beer fan and go, oh, that's right. Like, if it's been a little bit since you've, visited your local brewery, grabbed something to go, checked in on their Untappd page or their Instagram or whatever, do yourself a favor and go do that, because chances are they're brewing something really cool right now. They're, something seasonal, maybe something new. Mm-hmm. And it's all worth our time, but it's tough with all the beers in the world and all this exposure they get. And if you're a beer fan like me, your social media is just full of breweries from all over the world posting great pictures of beer, to just kind of cut that noise out for a little bit and go, you said to me that, and we talked about this in the happy hour a little bit, but every person in the United States is within 10 miles of a brewery, right?
That's right. There's more than 8,500 breweries in the U.S. right now.
Right.
So
yeah,
they really are the hubs of community.
Right. They really are. You don't need to, find it online or be jealous of someone taking a picture of some brewery that's far away from you. You can just walk down to yours and grab something that's fresh and delicious and you can get excited about. So I love that about this, and it makes you stop and think and go, that's right. It's been a little bit since I walked down the street and grabbed a pint from our local brewery. Let's go ahead and do that. And if you're an Untappd fan, like everybody listening is, you get a badge too, which is obviously great to brag about to your friends and all that good stuff. So hats off to you guys. But of course, this is not the only thing you're doing. I mean, we mentioned the Great American Beer Festival that just ended. You have all the winners and I have none of them, and that's my problem though. But you guys, the Brewers Association is always doing things to support small, independently owned craft breweries. It's not just local beer is better. It's a lot. So what else is kind of coming up the rest of this year and looking into 2022 that you're working on that we should get excited about?
Well, coming up after pumpkin beer and Halloween are the holidays.
Right.
And we have a national beer holiday called Small Brewery Sunday. It is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So after you've had all of your feasting, all of your shopping, head on over to your local breweries. Or heck, it's a 4-day weekend.
That's right.
Make a trip. Do a plan. Go and check out some beer tourism and maybe go find some places you haven't been before.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great point. And if you're trying to do that, you can jump on the Great American Beer Festival website. You guys have a list of all the winners of every Great American Beer Festival, of course. But if you want to find kind of most recently what's going on near you, you can do that there to plan that trip, and then jump on Untappd when you get there and see what else is happening, and use the mapping tools and the verified venues and trending beers inside the app to kind of build out the rest of that trip. But yeah, that's pack the turkey sandwiches in the car and go exploring.
There you go. Exactly.
You can easily go and do that. That's awesome. So, okay. What a great weekend. There's nothing goes better with a turkey sandwich than a bunch of local beer or a bunch of new beer. So I'm sold. What else is happening? What else is going on?
Well, and then 2022. And 2022, amazing. We have our fingers and toes crossed for the return of in-person events. And I've got 3 really awesome events to talk to your listeners about. We have, first of all, the 40th anniversary of the Great American Beer Festival, October 6th to 8th in Denver. Be there. It's going to be epic.
Yes.
But before that, in the spring and summer, we have 2 really cool events that we've had to put on pause for the last 18 or so months. Mm-hmm. If you're in the DC area, we have this amazing beer and food pairing event called Savor. Yeah. That is happening June 24th at the Anthem. We're super excited. Some of the world's best chefs with the brewers pairing food to their beers. It is to die for.
Oh, yeah.
Then if you are a home brewer, or if you've ever wanted to make your own beer or mead or kombucha or cider, we have this really cool hobbyist conference called HomebrewCon. And that's happening this year, or not this year, in 2022 in Pittsburgh, June 23rd to the 25th. It's an amazing gathering of the homebrewing community. and it is a conference. So it's a learning conference. Last time I was there, I learned how to make kombucha. So it's for all levels. High level, if you're already a home brewer and you want to talk the science of brewing, if you want to try different things, we've had speakers on how to make gluten-free beers. We have experts on mead and cider. It is an amazing, really fun time, and there's a lot of great evening activities as well.
Yes, I've heard a little bit about this, something called Club Night. What do you know, Ann? Tell me, give us a lowdown. This sounds like a special kind of fun.
Club Night, well, the homebrewing community is a really fun community, and often the homebrewing clubs from around the country come to HomebrewCon, and one night is called Club Night, where they are pouring their beers that the club has made. In addition, it's a costume party. Wow. So what they're drinking and what they're serving usually has a theme. So anything you can imagine, it's a really fun night of community and tasting some amazing beer.
I would probably brew a triple just so I could wear a banana suit and run around and highlight those banana esters and those cloves and stuff. Anyway, that's a personal problem.
That visual is I can't get that out of my head.
I know, right? I don't know how you're running those suits, but I've seen it happen. They're not designed for speed, I'll tell you that. But anyway, this is so cool. Clearly, there's tons to look forward to, in the near future. But also right now, by, as we said, just walking down the street, jumping on Untappd, jumping on the Brewers Association. There's many websites, whether it's craftbeer.com or the Great American Beer Festival.com or homebrewcon.org. Lots of resources for everyone listening to learn whatever they want to about, whatever aspect of the beer world they're curious about. So thank you so much, Ann, for stopping by and shedding some light on the great stuff the Brewers Association is doing. And this is awesome. This is great.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Of course, you got it. Cheers.
Take care.
Dude, that was awesome. I think it's always great when we can bring someone on the podcast. But that was a great conversation. I like the passion that the Brewers Association has supporting local. I mean, mechanically, they need breweries to exist. So there's a little bit of self-service in there. But anytime I go out, even if I'm traveling, I want to drink beer from a local place and kind of, I don't know, like pat myself on the back for helping out the community. Sure, but also it's a great place to connect with people too. So if any of you folks listening to the podcast want to learn more about that and the Brewers Association, the Mission Great American Beer Fest, which is put on by the Brewers Association, you sat down with her for a longer conversation on Happy Hour on Untappd's YouTube channel, Harrison.
That's right. Just last week. So we get really into the Great American Beer Festival. It's that just finished, winners, what that means for the BA, what that means for the future of beer, trends, all kinds of stuff. So it was really fun just going kind of deep with someone who's, closer to beer and more breweries, during her day-to-day at her job than really almost anybody else, since that's all she does is work with breweries. So really cool stuff, lots of laughs. I learned a ton too. It's on our YouTube channel. So whenever you have a little bit to take a look at that, I was super jealous of the beer she had. That just won a bunch of medals this year at the fest. So that's always rough to watch someone drink a great beer, but I'm used to it. Jon does it to me all the time. Usually it's the same beer, but whatever. Tonight I'm a little jealous and thinking about coconuts. Well, of course, enjoying this beer as well.
This one's all bananas, man. And for what it's worth, it couldn't be a more perfect fit for. Where are the banana beers? I don't know. But I'm hoping that's a trend that I get to experience in the next couple of years. But speaking of learning and educating ourselves, there's something that I think we could learn about today from this week's Verified Venue highlight.
Indeed. So it probably comes as no surprise to anybody. This is quickly turning into a Fly Machine Brewing Company show. And that's cool. So today we wanted to highlight that. So Fly Machine, as we said, they are a verified. So they're a verified venue as well as being a local brewery to us, which is great because we get alerts every time they put a new beer on. And
good or bad, yep.
Makes it easy to think that we're doing nothing one night and then find ourselves on the way to Flying Machine. And they put out a beer like every week at least. So I find myself whenever I'm able, kind of sneaking down there more often than not. So, and sometimes John and I meet up, and although oftentimes they'll release something new and I'll just drink Weighted Blanket, which is their kind of pub ale. That's on nitro at the brewery. They have that almost all the time as well. And I think it is a plan to have it pretty much all the time on a nitro tap. And it's magical. It really is.
That's one of those times where you can skip the aroma, appearance, flavor,
right?
Just skip it all together.
Right. And it's just a lovely little wet cracker, a little wet club cracker, whatever. It's great stuff. So, and I wanted to start though, with kind of a bit of a formal breakdown of these guys so that, of course, everyone at home who can't get their hands on a flying machine, try to find a trade for it, take a trip to the beach. It's easy to sell people to come into Wilmington. It's great. Tons of breweries near the ocean. So haven't been, think about it when you're able, but from kind of look at their mission statement, these guys are all about, and I love their mission statement because it's just like the description of their beers are very accurate. And again, they're not trying to dazzle you with some crazy poem or some long D&D game. It takes the whole, side of the can to tell you about their beer. Very straight to the point. Their mission statement, it does a really good job at saying exactly what they're doing, which you'd think would happen all the time. But I've read some mission statements in my day where I'm like, why are you here? Are you selling cars, or are you a basketball
We've
team?
all worked for that place at some point in our careers. Yeah,
exactly. Where you're kind of just like, who wrote this? He's definitely not here anymore. But anyway, there stands true. So the kind of top of the mission statement is innovation through tradition. And that's, we're a good example of that. We're going to Kolsch that's pretty traditional. Certainly, a Kolsch style ale made by an American brewery, but it's hitting a lot of those apple notes that you look for in a Kolsch. John, those are going to crazy pastry stout. So, and they do that a lot. They definitely have their Marzen just came out. It's pretty much as classic as it can be. They make a beer called Plain Arms. It's like an amazing Helles lager that is crystal clear. It hits every mark you want. They made a Vienna lager called Benevolent that was I think the number 1 or 2 ranked Vienna lager on Untappd for a really long time. And at first, I remember the first time I had that beer. It's one of those moments where you're kind of blown away by how perfect something is. So they dance the dance of the pastry stout, but also you want to have a killer German style beer that's really traditional. You can go there and it's all being made by the same people, that's always so fun, right? When you got someone who's very versatile and not afraid to try new styles. And so they've
got they're not just Wilmington. I know Harrison, you've spoke with their brewer a few times. Carl, he's got an extensive background, which made me jealous when you were telling me about the things he's done.
I know. Yeah. Carl's a wizard, and Dean over there as well. Their key quality, assurance manager. It's not a large team, which also makes it more impressive. But Carl came from Edmonds Oast before this, and before that, I think where he got to start was actually in Vietnam, and he was the first brewer to make an IPA in Vietnam, and I think maybe even all of Southeast Asia. So that's pretty wild that's wild. That's a crazy thing. That's a Jeopardy question, file Jeopardy question that now we all know the answer to. But again, a super smart guy, exactly what you would hope, a head brewer to be, very experienced and just loves this and loves the science of it and totally gets it. And Dean does too. Dean is someone who can talk to you all day about yeast culture and cells and temperatures, and it's all locked in his notebook. It's all in his head, which is, again,
and a lot of short jean shorts too.
A lot of mustaches, right? We fit right in. A lot of beards and facial hair and short shorts and cut off tees. It's a good time. It's a great time. And somewhere in the world, there is actually some behind the scene footage of you and I and Greg, Untappd's co-founder, running around in the back of Flying Machine Brewing Company, trying some beers out of tanks and barrels. And this was all, pre the world flipping on its head. I don't know where that footage is. So
it's somewhere in the cloud. I think that's what we say now. It's probably in the cloud or maybe on a thumb drive.
It's in a cumulus nimbus cloud over Egypt right now. We'll never find it.
Somewhere.
That's right. Finally, in the Nile, they need it. But anyway, so their mission statement goes on to say, viewing the history of beer through a modern lens by blending old world techniques with contemporary style, but with reverence for purpose, place, and community. And that is a nice little poem there, but it's exactly what they do. Like, again, they're doing new stage stuff, old school stuff. They're, making, Vienna Lager, great history of beer that we've talked about, the kind of, lost popularity. And then Sam Adams brought it back. Even though that beer is rooted in Germany, well, I'm going to get myself in trouble maybe, but I would argue, which is obviously a great brewing tradition, I would argue that Vienna lagers today taste the best they've ever tasted, wherever they're making them, here, Germany, whatever. So that's a great example of that, of like taking a classic style and going, well, we have the technology now to make it taste cleaner and, better than ever. And they're doing that. And that's just one example of it, of taking the old and smacking some new stuff on it and making it exciting again, which is for some people hard to do for a lager, but I'm always excited to drink a lager.
And it's hard for you to be incorrect, because it'd be hard for me to find one of those beers. I'd love to. I'd love to find one and drink it, but honestly, a 200-year-old lager probably hasn't aged. That we're going back before refrigeration. So
you might get lucky. It might be in some cave somewhere in some German mountain. I don't know, but and it's not just German tradition. I mean, they got pretty cool Czech tradition too, John. You tell me about this, the Mlíko beers. You're way more familiar with this than I am. Tell me what people need to know. I'm
not a versed Czechoslovakian, but I believe it's a Mlíko pour is what you asked for there, which means milk in Czechoslovakian language. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just email Untappd. Don't email me. But so this was the first place that I'd ever seen a Mlíko pour, because I haven't traveled to Czechoslovakia, but now I want to. And when you see it, it's like the way that Flying Machine does it. It's this huge, tall glass, and it's probably 90% head or foam. But it's different than the head that you usually get on a beer. It's kind of pillowy and cloudy. There's some purpose to it. It adds a lot of nice flavor. And at the bottom, you see this just tiny little bit. It looks like you ordered a Bud Light at a sports bar, and someone had to pour it that's never poured a draft beer before. And you're just like, you totally messed that up. But if you kind of learn the lore behind it, in Czechoslovakia, oftentimes this would be like your nightcap. So you even sometimes close out your tab, get ready to leave, and the bartender would be like, here's a Mlíko, and you just pretty much knock it all back in one giant chug, because there's only a tiny bit of beer, but you get the foam. It tastes a little bit sweeter. It's really common if you drink like Pilsner or Quell over there. They'll do that pour a lot. And it's like a Czech version. If you're in Germany, you would ask for, I believe it's pronounced a snit. And it's basically a pour of beer, but it's half foam. So it's kind of like a way for you to drink responsibly, order a beer, but without having to say, like, can you just give me a tiny pour? Like, I'll have a snit. Or in Czechoslovakia, Mlíko. But it's starting to become more popular in America too. Anywhere you have to be able to get the beer on draft. And a lot of breweries I've seen, not a lot, it's not huge, it's not on every bar yet, but it's becoming more popular. And if you get the chance to drink a Mlíko, know that you're basically ordering a glass of foam. But enjoy it, because it'll take whatever beer that was and it'll make it taste so much different. Right,
exactly. And that's a good point of it. Is the first time someone of your beer buddies thinks he's going to pull a fast one on you and just order a Mlíko for you, not tell you what to do, you're supposed to take it as kind of like a shot. It's like an aperitif or whatever, a digestif almost. So don't be like, heads up, don't sit there and sip the foam and pretend you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. Shoot that thing. Just shoot it down. Enjoy that wet foam and take a big old burp afterwards. And go, that hit the spot. Thanks, bud. And he'll go, what? How do you know what that was? So you've got the upper hand now. As someone said, doesn't matter. It's a quote from Seven. Let's not go down that route. But and a final note about Flying Machine. So they don't have any food at their original location. Tons of food trucks, which is great, and a really nice big outdoor area to enjoy pizza or barbecue or whatever they have that night. They did just open a new location on Wrightsville Beach, which is the beach right next to Wilmington that's got tons of food, and actually a James Beard finalist chef is their head chef. So it's not just any old food, just like their beer. It was very important to them. The food was outstanding, and so they didn't mess around and got, somebody knows what they're doing. So yet to sneak down there. They recently opened, but certainly on my short list of when, able to go out, getting down there and enjoying some awesome beer and food, and maybe a Maliko on the beach is a whole new thing that I get to experience.
I like the idea of like beach Malikos. And now that we're talking about beers we're going to have in the future, let's Doc Brown this. That's a poor transition. Let's talk about beers we've had in the past, namely the best beer that I've had this week. I think it might be a little bit over a week since I had this beer, but the one I want to talk about comes from an experience I had. I was in Boston recently. I'm not trying to boast. I've always kind of shamed Boston, but I went there. It's an eye-opening trip now that they don't have Tom Brady playing for them. And the city's gorgeous. It's beautiful. There's a lot of great public transportation and beer. And of course, I ran to Trillium and I went to their tap room, and there wasn't a line. I got right in.
Nice.
And I drank a beer called Barrel Aged German Chocolate Cake Donut. And tonight I'm drinking basically a banana version of that, but it came out in a tiny little tasting glass, and I was so thankful for that.
Yeah.
It was like 15%, but it was like drinking brownie batter. I mean, it was amazing. Wow. They had another one. I think it had just sold out before. It was a collaboration with a donut place.
Nice.
So from Trillium, I learned about that donut place, and you bet we went there the next day to get some donuts. But they also had great food. Talking about Flying Machine bringing in a James Beard finalist, Trillium's food was incredible. And I think I like going to a dive brewery where I can just drink beer and watch a sports team break my heart. But there's something nice. It was nice to bring my wife in there and like treat it like a proper dinner with really great beer. I thought that was awesome. So thanks, Trillium. What about you, Harrison?
That sounds great. Yeah. So for me, I was lucky enough to get out to Denver. So the Craft Brewers Conference, also known as the CBC, was held back in person this year in Denver, although at a much smaller scale. And so Untappd sent a contingent out there to meet with, whoever was out there and wanted to talk about Untappd with us. So that was great. But I did, my one goal of that whole trip outside of the job part of it was right, which is super important. And my feet hurt to prove that I took it seriously. I think I stood and just talked to everyone for like 20 hours in a row. But after that, stood some more, but at a brewery. Not as any brewery. It's been on my bucket list forever. Bierstadt Lager House. So hopefully you guys know about this. If not, it's a brewery in Denver that just brews lagers, very traditional German style lagers, and that's it. Like that's all they're making, which is amazing. Obviously, it's the year lager. I had to go to this place for us, for me, for John, for everyone, vicariously living through my check-ins at home. So we did it, and I quickly gathered the whole group. It was actually very nice. It was the last night we were there, and I said, I want to go to Bierstadt Lager House, and everyone we were with said, let's do it, and we all went together and tried to order boots of beer. We were outside. When you're outside, they don't bring out the 2-liter boot, which we didn't know. Instead, they bring out 2 just liters of beer. And so the server came out and brought like way too many beers. We were like, what's going on? And so eventually figured out like, those 2 beers were yours, whatever. So I got my fill of a beer called All the Hype. All the Hype is a 100% smoked malt Helles lager. So that's it. It's just smoked malt. It's probably Wireman smoked malt. They use beechwood for it. So it's not like a campfire in a glass or a Rausch beer if you're at home going, ah, and your tongue is all of a sudden tastes dirty. Nope, that's not what the experience was. It's like the subtlest kind of smoke note in a Helles lager. It was amazing. It was unreal. And I'd heard about it. Actually, I ran into my old buddies from Neshaminy Creek on the floor. They won gold for their smoked beer, their Bamberg style Helles, which I mentioned before, I brewed a version of the one bronze, so that's why I'm here and not making beer anymore. But they won gold this year, which was sweet. And I was like, where have you guys gone? Where should we go? What do I need to have while I'm here? And they're like, Beerside Lager House. Get their smoked lager. It's the best. So coming from people who know a fair amount about smoked beer, as I obviously didn't ignore it and was very pleasantly surprised. So just a little bit of touch of smoke to it, but I had a half liter and then got someone's second liter when they realized I didn't understand what I was ordering. Please take this. So that worked out serendipitously for me, but it's a really cool place. And then beyond the beer, Beerside Lager House also has I guess I call them life-size games. It's almost like an adult Chuck E. Cheese inside there. They have beanbag toss cornhole, but the beanbags are the size of a small car, and you're throwing your back out to get it across the room. I played a life-size game of Connect 4 that I won, but it became full contact Connect 4, but it didn't. Anyway, sportsmanship, fun was had, but it's a great place, great beer. It's also a pretty cool experience. So if you ever find yourself in Denver, I highly recommend putting that place on the top of your list, not just for the great beer, but it's fun. It was very memorable and cool and delicious and met my expectations. So not bad going from someone who's just been in their house for pretty much the past 2 years to drinking some world-class lagers. It was a shock, but a good one, and definitely happy to have been able to enjoy it.
For those of you that don't know, Harrison's a bit of a Connect 4 shark. I don't know if he's lifetime undefeated, but I know that he wins his kids' allowance back pretty much every week.
That's right. That's right.
Teaching them how to play.
That's it. That's right. Oh, I don't know. What's this game? I've never played this before. Don't ever trust me if I ever tell you I've never played the game we're about to play. That's the only time I'm going to say that.
So other than that, little bit of advice, don't challenge Harrison to Connect 4. That's it for this show. We had an amazing guest on the show. Big thanks to Anne for joining Harrison on the show today and for helping set up an amazing badge on Untappd. I think probably one of the most actionable, I don't know, it's a badge that does more than just encourage you to drink. It encourages you to drink locally and support your community. And that's something Harrison and I are very passionate about. So thanks to Anne and the Brewers Association for helping set that up with Untappd and support all the people that are providing us with these amazing beers. Remember, you can check out their happy hour conversation on Untappd's YouTube channel, along with every episode of Drinking Socially, including almost the ones that haven't come out yet. Nah, that's time travel. But speaking of time travel and next week, what's coming up next, Harrison?
Oktoberfest! So I know we're kind of in the beginning stages of it now, kind of. And again, it's all virtual this year. So we're going to make a big deal about it, have beer from here, beer from there next week. And Untappd's going to be a big deal about it too. Multiple badges. Jump on our social media to learn more about it. There's a contest, a Stein hoisting contest happening on our social media this weekend. So if you're feeling strong and your shoulders still work, which mine don't, now maybe, and you like beer, maybe your time to shine is now. Get your boots, get your Steins ready to have a blast with us next week.
Until then, I suppose.
Yes.
Prost.
Cheers! Yeah.